The MacBook Air is fantastic. Look at this thing. It is so thin, it is super duper light, it is very well built, and for an Apple product, it isn't even all that expensive. But what if instead, here we have the new MacBook Air 15-inch, and it is, well, it's still very well built, but it is expensive. It is quite light, but very heavy, and I don't think it's any more powerful. Why did they make this? Well, let's have a look. All right, you can leave it by. Which charger did we get? They got the dual E. Okay, so Sven's currently cheering because we got the dual power brick right here. You have two 35-watt chargers. Don't get this one. I really think that you'll be better off if you get the 70-watt one. Well, because then, you know, you can charge your laptop just about twice as fast. And if you really need to plug in two things, instead of plugging in like here and here, you can plug in your laptop to the 75 watts, and then just plug in your phone to your laptop. That's probably fine. At least they gave us this though. They don't do that with the new iPhones. Let's see what else is in here. Ooh, oh, who wants an Apple sticker? Hell yeah.
Thanks, Apple.
There we go. We also have our nice little MagSafe charging cable, and depending on which one you get, this does have different colors, and it looks friggin' sweet in the dark one. Now, oh my God. Yeah, what I noticed when I took it out of the box is that this thing's half a chunk. All right, here we have an M2 Air. This right here comes in at 2.7 pounds. That's really good. For reference, HP Dragonfly 2.8, very similar. That is great. 14-inch MacBook Pro. This is the M1 model. 3.5 pounds. So what do you think, guys? Where do we want this to land? 3 pounds? I think if this is like 2.9, I'll be really happy. It's not. I can tell you it's not. 3.3 pounds. That's getting pretty up there for something with the Air name. Like, it is really, really thin. Like, oh, can you see that? It is quite thin, but at the same time, it is not as light as I was hoping. In fairness to Apple, the Surface Laptop 15-inch comes in at 3.4 pounds, so they do have them beat there, and if we're honest, probably in every other area. Although the 3.3 pounds isn't great, in the past, if you wanted to go for a nice large display on an Apple device, you had to get this guy right here, the 16-inch, which comes in at 4.77 pounds. That's heavy. And the only thing that is heavier than this is the weight of the check that you have to write to get it. All right, let's have a little look at the different sizes here. So we've got the 15-inch Air, we have the nice 14-inch Pro, and the 13-inch Air, which is more like just a 14-inch device, barely. It is quite a bit larger, even compared to the 16-inch. I think it's pretty similar to that. Wow, this is getting heavy. There you go. You can see the whole 16, 15, 14, 13 all the way down, and they do get quite a bit larger at the 15. Is it at least thinner than the 14? Way thinner. Look at that. Now for I/O, on the right side, almost nothing, just a headphone jack, although they still have a headphone jack, that's good I guess. Around the other side we have two Thunderbolt 3s, not 4 unfortunately, and the MagSafe connector right there. Oh, I love that sound. It takes me back. One of my biggest concerns with the 15-inch MacBook Air is that as you make devices larger, it's way more difficult to keep them rigid. And with this as thin as it is, I'm a bit concerned she might be a bit floppy. Oh no, that's quite good. I'm not shocked, it is Apple, and it has a little bit more flex than I was expecting, but it's the entire chassis flexing, which is way less worse than there being like localized soft spots. That said though, you can definitely get a fair bit of flex, like right there above the trackpad. It's definitely more flexible than the 13, but at the same time, like, it's an Apple product. I'm not surprised that it's like an A+ in build quality. Zero flex there on the panel. Almost no flex there at all. And there is zero flex in the segue to our sponsor. Thanks to GoTo Resolve for sponsoring this video. Are you looking for simple, easy to use, yet effective IT software? GoTo Resolve might be the answer for you. Safeguard your business with industry-leading protocols like Zero Trust Access Control and multi-factor authentication. Their remote monitoring and management capabilities allow agents to protect and secure IT assets. Perform important tasks such as patch management, antivirus management, IT automation, and general remote support, all without disrupting end users. Check out GoTo Resolve at the link below and start securing your IT assets today. All right, hopping into the 15-inch MacBook Air, and the first thing I notice is look at that notch. Why did they have to do that right there? Yeah, oh, disgusting. Look at this right here. So we have the XPS 17, and Dell has been able to get full IR facial recognition as well as a webcam up in here. Look at the size of this bezel compared to the one on the MacBook, where it is the exact same size, but then Apple's gone ahead and just put this big old dingus there. Hate it. Guys, like I know that all the Apple users are not going to complain about this because they've just gotten used to it, but it sucks still. Notch aside though, this is a very good screen. The resolution is 2880 by 1864, which is kind of strange, but for a device of this size, very good. It's a little bit less than 4K, so you are going to have some battery improvements from that. It also has 500 nits peak brightness and full coverage of DCI-P3. That is excellent. I think it's also color accurate. It must be. Everything from Apple's color accurate. That said though, when you start comparing it to the not all that far off price-wise 14-inch MacBook Pro, it is a little bit underwhelming. So on the 14-inch, you have 1000 nit brightness on the whole panel, 1600 nit peak brightness on just like a tiny little bit. And that is the difference between having like a full HDR experience on the 14-inch and just like normal computing on the Air. At the same time, if you're going to be going outside and using your laptop out there a whole bunch, the extra brightness will be much appreciated on the Pro. That said though, 500 nits, pretty darn good on a laptop. Another advantage of the 14 inches display is that it goes up to 120 Hertz, whereas the MacBook Air is just locked to 60. That said, I don't really expect devices like this to have high refresh rate displays, but it is a disadvantage compared to the 14. Let's see, keyboard? The keyboard on the 15-inch MacBook Air is sort of one step forward, one step back. It feels like that they do have more travel here than the 14 and 13-inch MacBooks, but also the key stability just isn't quite what I expect from an Apple product. Like if you look here, I can sort of push on the sides of the keys and they move a fair bit. It's not terrible, but it just doesn't quite have the level of just greatness that I sort of expect and, well, is kind of required of Apple laptops. Yeah, because like I don't love the feel of like the 14-inch MacBook Pro's keyboard, but it's super snappy and super precise, so at least for short amounts of time, I can be really, really quick on it. I don't know if I can be as quick on the 15-inch. And like it's, compared to the HP Dragonfly, it gets killed. Like it is nowhere near the quality of this keyboard. Like I can, look here. There's no flex at all on this key. It has way more travel and it just feels so much better. It's not even in the same league. We really need to get our keyboard tester fully sorted out so that I can actually have numbers for this kind of a thing. But it seems like it's a bit of a downgrade compared to the 14-inch and just not quite what I expect out of Apple, even if it is really great in like the grand scheme of all the laptops that exist. That said though, even though Apple's keyboards are not quite my cup of tea, you cannot argue with the trackpad. This thing is friggin' massive and it is friggin' great. They make the best trackpads on the market and have for years and years and years and years. Now there are some Windows laptops like, you know, the HP Dragonfly that I have right here, or some Dell XPSs that have a similar-ish level of trackpaddery that Apple has, but at the end of the day, Apple's led it forever and no one's truly surpassed them yet. Now on the MacBook Air, you only get one choice of CPU, so that's the M2 chip the 8-core, 4-performance-core, 4-efficiency-core version, as well as a 10-core GPU and a 16-core neural engine. This one that we have right here is a pretty baller tier model with 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of SSD. Although that said, I think a lot of you will be very satisfied with a bit less than that, because we'll get to the price later, but this thing is not cheap. Now, one thing that you guys might have noticed is that there's nothing here. No speakers, nothing at all. That's because, much like the 13-inch MacBook Air, they're hidden down under the hinge here. But if they're anything like Apple's other speakers, I imagine they are fantastic. All right, we've got the 15-inch right here, and it sounds pretty good. Is that as loud as it goes? No. Oh, there we go. That's good. That's really good. 15's got a little bit more on the go. Oh yeah. Way more bass in the 15-inch MacBook Air when compared to the 13-inch. All right, you can leave. Next challenger. All right, 15-inch Air, 14-inch Pro. It does sound like that there's a bit more bass and a bit more treble in the 14-inch Pro, but that said, this right here is the M1 version, which had a bit more aggressive of like a V-shaped EQ to it. So I actually prefer the M2 15-inch Air over the 14-inch Pro. That's pretty surprising. That said though, I'm guessing that the 14-inch M2 and the M2 Air sound very, very similar. Unsurprisingly, the 16-inch definitely has the edge in just pure bass extension and generally probably having much larger speakers. That said though, I am very impressed with the speakers on this guy right here. And if you're looking for just like a content consumption machine, this thing will be friggin' sweet. Like, I know that it doesn't have the sear your eyeballs sort of brightness that you get from the Pro versions, but at the same time, like, it's not like an OLED display, but the blacks on this are very impressive and they don't have any sort of like bleeding between the different zones. It just looks freaking great. Oh, wow. All right. We are currently getting 50 FPS, which is actually pretty darn good. This is looking much better than I thought that it would. It is still low, but at the same time, it is doing it. That said though, I think that we should really do 2 runs of this, because this right here, much like its smaller sibling, does not have a fan, so it is fully passively cooled. So what I'm expecting is that the performance will start out very good and then just get lower and lower and lower as it continues to saturate. Like, we've already gone from 50 to 35 FPS. Okay, average FPS of 46, run benchmark again. So last time we went into this first area at about 50 FPS, 44 is where we're starting. Okay, so a little bit slower. Oh no, it's getting up there right around the 50. Maybe it won't have heat soaked as badly as I thought that it would in that amount of time. But like, seriously though, I'm impressed that it's doing this at all. Like, my expectation was us to start this game and it to just be like, but it's doing it. All right, last time we got 46, now it's down to 39. So that kind of shows you how it will perform really well, but the thermals of this are super holding it back. And the more that you try to do, the slower it will be. Now, for the most part, this is actually going to be fine. So a lot of people will buy this for like emails and just using the internet and that sort of stuff. And if that's your use case, this is going to be quite a good laptop. That said though, if you want to do things that are strenuous for an extended amount of time, like gaming or video editing or photo exporting, a whole bunch of them, this will start to let you down. Now you can maybe just like stick a fan down here dirty style and it probably will actually help out a lot. But that said, if you want to do actual work, you're gonna have to shell out for the Pro or just get something with Windows. On the 15-inch MacBook Pro, we get a 1080p webcam. And this right here looks really quite good. This is a very challenging environment where it's like dark stuff, very bright stuff. It is having very little trouble just exposing for my face. Let's see here, moving around, direct light in it. Not a problem. It is doing pretty darn good. I do see some graininess, but at the same time, for a laptop webcam, good job, guys. All right, now let's see what's inside of it. I am guessing a 13-inch MacBook Air, but bigger. So I guess first of all, we should take apart the 13. There we have our 13-inch taken apart. I imagine it is very similar to get into the 15. Now this right here requires 4 pentalobe screws. If you're not totally sure what pentalobe is, it's Apple's F you fastener. There we go. We're inside, that was easy enough. Let's turn this off again. I'm actually pretty surprised that this thing just turned right on while I had the bottom off. A lot of Apple devices have chassis intrusion switches, which will have it so that if the bottom isn't on, you cannot turn on the laptop. It is actually really good on the Pro models because it is theoretically at least possible to access the data that is on your RAM while the laptop is on if you can remove the bottom. Yep, that's a battery. That's pretty much all that there is in here in both of them. Now we can see that there is a tiny bit more battery on the 15-inch, although according to Apple, the battery life on these two is almost identical. So like you have a tiny bit more battery on the 15, but also you have the 15-inch screen that is pushing more pixels and just consuming more power, and it about evens out to both of them having 14-ish hours of battery life. And that is pretty freaking good. The ability of this M2 chip to be able to play Tomb Raider like it did while still just sipping power. This is a 66 watt hour battery. Being able to just keep that going and going for a whole like 14 hours or so is super impressive. I was sort of hoping that they would have a bit of a cooling upgrade in here, but from the looks of it, that's not the case. There's nothing in here, nothing at all. All right, well, overall, I actually really like the 15-inch MacBook Air. There are so many people out there that just simply want an laptop that will do laptop things for you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be powerful. It just has to have a long battery life, pretty good looking screen, all right keyboard, and it's good enough for a lot of people. That said though, the make or break of this thing is going to be the price. Now it starts at $1,300, but that one kind of sucks. That gets you 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD, which is kind of not acceptable for a $1,300 laptop. All right, hit me, Sven, how much is this one?
$2,100 US.
The one that we have with its 24 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD comes in at $2,100 US. That is pretty rough. For that kind of a price, I would without a doubt be getting this guy right here. 14-inch MacBook Pro, beautiful machine, absolutely love this thing. That said though, if you want to go for the 16 gigabyte 512 version of the MacBook Air 15, it's coming in a bit less than the 14-inch, and you are getting more screen real estate and slightly less weight. With the price, it's a bit more difficult of a decision for sure. So this right here I think is gonna be a maybe get it now if you really like the looks, but I would really wait until there's an M3 version and then just buy the M2 cheaper. So if you like this video, hit like, get subscribed. Make sure to let me know down in the comments how I'm both a shill for Windows and Apple at the same time, and just have a great old day.